Now that we are starting a big project, here's a great tip to follow your pattern. Get an old piece of tin. Here I'm using the lead of an old formula tin or anything with iron really. And then one of those magnets that they distribute with advertising, and use that to follow. You put the tin lead on the back and the magnet on the front, and then you can follow your pattern, and every time you look back at the magazine it's exactly on the same spot, it hasn't moved on its own. It's a great way to follow your pattern. If you're working the rows up, you just keep going up and then it just covers what you already did, but you can still see what's to come. And then to start, we go to the very middle. The very middle is the easiest place to start because you've marked that on your fabric. But I like to start with the darker colors that usually make the contour of the project, and I will explain why as we do it. So I chose a place to start which is the closest to the middle, so I can count with less chance of mistake. And then remember, I never start on the edge of a row. I don't start all the way to the right or all the way to the left. I start on the middle so that I can have some stitches to cover the starting thread and the ending thread. I'm using 3 threads from the yarn in this case. So there we go. From the very middle of my project, I'm counting up to the place where I want to start. I put the needle first and then I go back and I count again. Be very careful. We always make mistakes. You see I made mistakes as we go along this project, but you kind of go around then. And then you see I only made 2 stitches of that bottom row to the left, and then I can go up, finish up the left part of this little piece of hair on her forehead, and then I can come back. So some people left comments about with this kind of technique, some stitches are done left to right and others are done right to left. And for the contour, it really doesn't matter much because it's almost only 1 stitch per row. So even if you're doing the regular technique of cross stitching for filling the big colors, I would still start doing this way the contours, the darker colors, just because it's a really nice way to follow your pattern, to start with all the contours, with the big color, the dark colors that go around. Because you see, then you have a reference to fill it in. It's much easier. And here I'm just retracing my steps. You see, I did the ear, came back. Now I did all the way the face, and then I ran out of thread. I'm hiding the thread there, and then I can just put on a new thread on the needle. I have to always remember exactly which little hole I ended up, and then as soon as I can hide the thread anywhere I want, and with only 1 stitch go back to that exact point, I am okay. Just keep in mind which spot you stopped, and if you're going vertically or horizontally. Here I usually do vertically all my stitches. So now I just walk my way back. So again, as I was saying, if you do this way, you see the face is all ready, and when I go fill up other colors, I have a reference. For any place on the head I want to do, I have a quick reference to the stitch that I already did. And it's easier not to miscount the pattern this way, starting with the darker colors that go around the project. So now I also have a reference for where to start my arm here. So I'll just start and try not to stitch over the green lines. Here are green, the marks for where the middle of the pattern is, because then when you try to remove the green, it may be tangled. And that is another thing. When you're doing the contours first, if you need to undo something, there is no thread around, there's no color that was stitched next to it, so you can undo your stitches much cleaner, in a much cleaner way. If I miscount something, and because I keep kind of going all around the pattern, I can always check if I miscounted something, and I can undo my stitches really easily. Here I got to a point of the arm where there was no point of contact to the continuation of this color, So because I don't want any thread hanging on the back, I just cut the thread, finish that first part of the arm, and then I start it again. You see, those two lines don't actually touch, so I would have to have some thread in the back to keep going, and I didn't want that. So I started again. I gave it 3 stitches to the right to start so I could hide the beginning thread, and then I did those 3 stitches to the left, then I came to the right, and I keep going. And every time I find a point of contact to another line, I follow that line, come back, keep going. It's just be sure you can follow, you can not get lost. If you fear getting lost, then do one thread of rows at a time and then finish and start again. You see here it's quite easy for me to forget my way which I came. So if you don't feel comfortable doing this, just kind of do one part at a time, finish it up and start again. Here I went a long way and then I can now just come back. For me it's much easier this way, because then when I'm done I kind of have a skeleton of the whole project. As you see here, it's much easier to fill up, it's much easier to count my stitches now from the pattern. And on the next video we'll just continue filling up the other colors. I hope you keep watching.